What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22. This time around we're at the Spanish Grand Prix. Last time out we had the Miami Grand Prix, the first time I'd ever done a Miami Grand Prix, and it went alright. We got pretty lucky at the end with a big collision involving a few of the cars in front of us, which meant we were able to make up several places. And yeah, I think we ended up finishing P15, and Lundgaard was just ahead of us in P14, so a decent race with the team. I think that's probably the maximum of what we can achieve without a race with a big incident. So yeah, that was pretty good in the end, especially considering how it looked. It was going to be, you know, sort of P19, P20 roughly was the sort of result we were looking at until then. So yeah, we're just working on a few upgrades there, as you can see. I actually think I manually overrid the thing and decided I was going to choose my own upgrades because it didn't want me to, or it wasn't recommending a particular upgrade that I thought we could do. You see that we fail all three of the things that we were going to have on the car.
Some new developments to come through, but some of them have failed quality control.
So that's a bit of a shame, all things considered. It means that if we were going to jump anyone in the performance standings, that's not going to happen anymore. Fortunately, some of these are still pretty cheap because we had a lot of I don't know, we had a lot of development boosts on them, which meant obviously they were pretty cheap to begin with, and they obviously half in price if they fail one time as well. Now we're getting to the Pirelli hot lap. This time I did choose the autocross because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I thought I can't never do an autocross, especially considering next season, if the Pirelli hot laps are available, I'm going to do all different ones to the ones I did this season. So we'll see. We'll see what the autocross is like and see how well I do. So the way that these the way these hot lap programs work is that you've got gates that you've got to pass through, and you get penalised if you hit the edge of the gate or miss the gate. And as you can see, it starts out pretty well, but then I take that corner a bit deep and hit the gate, I take that one deep and miss the gate, and that's 15 seconds worth of penalties that I pick up. And then as we come up to the end here, you'll see it is a 142, which if I knocked the 15 seconds I got penalised there, that would have been good enough for gold, but unfortunately it was only bronze. So we make not very much money off the back of that, 25k and only 250 acclaim, which was a bit of a shame. Here I'm looking through all my facilities, seeing what I want to maybe invest in and what upgrades I want to do. I think in the end I decide based on the previous races that we've been having, and I think, you know, we've had 3 races and 5 pit stops in those 3 races, and we've had 5 pit stops in the 5 races we've done, and 3 of those pit stops have been slow. So as you saw there, I ended up investing in the pit crew. And now it's time to get into the race weekend proper. Got some emails here from Chris talking about how bad the R&D situation is going to be for this weekend. Race looks like it's going to stay pretty dry, and yeah, as you can see, development comparison, we are the worst team on the grid. Perhaps if we'd had all 3 of those upgrades come through, we might have been able to jump Williams in the standings, but as is, we have not jumped Williams in the standings. So we remain the worst car on the grid, and yeah, now you will find that it is time for us to get into the first practice session of the weekend. So here we are, on track for the first, I think this was my acclimatization program, first lap I'd done around the new Spain circuit, because there are I think there's 1 or 2 corners that have been changed compared to the previous season. So I was trying to get used to the lay of the track. You might have seen there when I was looking at my components that I've still got that MGUH that I had acquired a lot of wear on in the last race. That's still in my car, but I will get that taken off before the qualifying and the race, because I don't think it's going to last a full race distance. generally, from what I remember of how good I was at Spain, this acclimatization program was, I don't know, it made me pretty optimistic because it made me think I might actually be within the fight. I don't typically run amazingly around here. You know, when I'm in a front-running car, I don't really win usually on this circuit, and when I'm in a sort of a midfield car, I might finish outside the points. That's usually my relative pace around the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. But you know, here I felt a bit more positive than I usually feel. Just based on one sort of practice session.
You've pretty much nailed this circuit. This is a really strong foundation to build from over the course of the weekend.
But you know, I passed that one with ease. It wasn't particularly difficult, and I actually passed all of them with ease. Some rain comes down later in the session, and that's what you're seeing here. You'll see that my lap times and my tyre wear were pretty good, but obviously you can't really translate that into what's going to be a dry race, so we're going to be running a default strategy for the race.
Time to remind ourselves of our top three, who are Verstappen, Ricciardo and Robinson. What an incredible practice session that was, but the fun doesn't stop here though. Join us again as the rest of the weekend unfolds.
P3 in practice, but I don't think you can really read too much into that on account of the fact that we were one of only 5 cars to set a time on dry tyres, coupled with the fact that I think Latifi was setting his as the rain started coming down, so that might explain why he only had a 125 where the rest of us were in the sort of lower 120s. You see we got quite a few development boosts there. I think Christian brought home like 100 resource points or something like that, and we brought home a bunch as well. Here, Mark's talking about the car swapping ends between 7 and 9, so yeah, that's a difficult complex still. I think they've actually reprofiled one of the curbs around turn 7 as well, so that is going to make it all the more difficult for us to take without causing damage to the car or without spinning or something to that degree, but hopefully it should be alright. Here we're briefly going into the R&D just to see if there's any more upgrades we can do, and we're just going to put the failed upgrades back on the car, and those will probably be on the car in time for sort of Azerbaijan, Canada time, but those races aren't to come for a little while yet, so we're going to have to be patient before we see the benefits of our hard work falling onto the car. Now it's time for qualifying. Coming in this, I was once again, like I was in Miami, I was cautiously optimistic about our pace. I didn't feel like we had amazing pace, but I thought maybe we could push and challenge to get into Q2, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So this is the end of our first flying lap. It's a 120.0. I was pretty happy with that. It's a pretty decent lap. But Hamilton comes along and sets the time as 1.7 seconds faster, so I was asking myself, you know, is it fast enough? And then fortunately at the end of the session, on my second lap of Q1, we go 4/10 faster, and it's fast enough for P15, which means we just make it through the session. You know, pretty pleased with that. My target, like I said, was getting out of Q1, and we achieved it, so I can't be too mad about that. As I said, it was only P15, so it was a close one, and yeah, if you look, we were only sort of like less than a tenth away from potentially being, you know, we were a tenth faster than P17. Lundgaard P20, but ahead of both Williams, so that was pretty good. You know, Williams are our closest competitors, and if we can out-qualify them with both cars consistently, that puts us in good stead in the race. So yeah, I was pretty happy for him. And now it's time for us to get to Q2, which I was very happy to be in. So I can only hope that we do well. I think it would take a miracle for us to get into Q3. I don't think we have the pace at all. And here on my first lap, you see it's a 119.4, even faster than my Q1 best lap. And then here we are, getting ready to start my second flying lap of Q2, and it was around when I was coming through these first couple of corners, it was when I realised I committed the cardinal sin, the one that I keep making, the mistake I keep making. I didn't change the tyres on my car. And I'm in P10 currently, So if I could have improved maybe on that lap by like a tenth or two, it might just have been fast enough for me to get into Q3. But it's going to be very, very hard on a set of used soft tyres. These soft tyres in this game, they go off so quickly compared to previous year's games. You cannot set multiple times in the same set of tyres. It's just not possible unless you really mess up your first lap. But even then, you're going to be compromising your ability to set up to set a second competitive lap time. So, as you can see, we are about matching the delta all the way through the first couple of sectors. In the final sector, it's very corner heavy, and we make a couple of mistakes, and that loses us all the time. But I'm thinking at this point what might have been for if I had changed tyres, maybe we could have been faster than the people around us, than the Hasses who were in 10th and 11th, I believe. But such is life, and it's only going to be P12. But nonetheless, I was pretty happy about that, because P12 is pretty good for us, especially considering we currently have the worst car on the grid. To be sort of around the likes of the Alpha Tauris and the Hasses, that's a pretty strong result, and we would have needed a big improvement to make it past Schumacher and Magnussen anyway, almost 5 tenths. I don't think we had the pace to get into the 118s this weekend, so yeah, I think P12 was sort of the best that we were looking at, and yeah, I once again feeling pretty good about what might happen in the race. Obviously, Spain, notorious for that big long pit straight. That's going to be a bit of a problem area for us, I imagine. I think we'll have a lot of cars attempting to breeze past us in that place. But once again, our cornering is good, and I'm constantly feeling like maybe there's just a bit too much downforce on the car, and because we're faster than these cars through the corners, but it's in the straights that they are just breezing past us unless we're burning all of our battery, and I don't see how they can be burning battery all the time, like unless they've got battery upgrades and stuff like that. So yeah, that was me sort of wondering maybe I should be looking at setting up the car in a different way. But for now, we're gonna obviously have to stick with the setup that we ran in qualifying, which got us into P12, so it can't be that bad of a setup. And time to get into the race.
Has been a permanent fixture on the Formula One calendar for over 30 years now, and for good reason. Do you remember Michael Schumacher's absolute dominance here in that rain-soaked Grand Prix in 1996? That day he took his first ever victory for Ferrari, and we've had many more iconic moments since. The Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya then, a high-speed 2.89-mile circuit which demands an efficient downforce package and bravery on the part of the driver, especially through the blind right of turn 9, which we might just see taken flat out this weekend. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, George Russell and Perez, Bottas, Magnussen, Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, Mick Schumacher, Robinson, Lance Stroll and Gasly, Joe, Norris, Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, Vettel, Lundgaard, Latifi and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Natalie Pinkham. Now our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get a clean start. And this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space. And finding your braking point into turn 1 as well is testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
So indeed, here we go, and unlike what Natalie Pinkham is suggesting, I am personally hoping that there are going to be a few incidents ahead, because maybe that will allow us to sneak into the points. Once again, It's going to be a tough one. We're going to be slow compared to the people behind us and the people ahead of us. Realistically, the best start and the best starting scenario here would be that we keep ahead of the people behind us, you know, maybe challenge a couple positions in front of us and stay within DRS range until DRS gets enabled, and then use that DRS to tow us along to prevent other people from overtaking them. I think that's probably one of the only ways that we're going to stay sort of competitive in this race, is with sort of assistance when it comes to straight line speed. So here we are lining up on the grid once again. I'm getting a little bit better at these now. I'm slowly learning how to do them. This time I overshoot just a tiny bit, but it's fine.
Okay, good parking there, mate. Now we need to make sure we get a great launch as the race starts.
Still managed to get a decent parking result, so I was pretty happy about that. Grid finishes forming up with Latifi and Albon at the back, and the lights come on and the lights go out, and it's a decent start from us, but once again we find ourselves kind of with nowhere to go, and Ocon and Schumacher just have that superior speed to us as we go down to the first corner. Lance Stroll starting on the softs. It was to be expected that he would have a lot of pace compared to us off the launch. You know, the softer the tyre compound you run, the less wheel spin you're likely to get off the start, and so he was challenging us down into turn 1 and 2. Here he comes back through turn 3, and as we go on the run up to turn 4, you see he's still challenging us. This is a big battle with Lance Stroll right now, and this is going to determine a lot in the race. He gets ahead of us, but we go for a dive bomb down the inside as we head into turn 5. So, we keep position so far, but we have a number of soft compound runners behind us, I believe. Yep, Daniel Ricciardo is on the soft compound tyres, Lance Stroll is on the soft compound tyres, and I believe behind him there's also Lando Norris, who is also running soft tyres. So whilst they might be stopping earlier in this race, and they'll have to make a set of hards work longer into the race, right now they're going to have a lot of pace, and if they can get ahead of me, they can absolutely pull away from me, and they'll end up finishing in front. That's something I'm almost certain about, honestly. So for now, we've come out on top of that battle with Lance Stroll, but I don't doubt that these cars behind us, like Ricciardo and Stroll and Norris, you know, they're gonna provide a big challenge to us as we progress throughout this race. Mick Schumacher already broken that DRS range I was talking about, and it's only been one lap, so I'm going to need some mega pace to catch back up with him. But burning my battery all the way down the straight, and still I can't fall back into range, really. I just about make it for a second, but then through this corner, you know, he starts pulling away again. Daniel Ricciardo looking up the inside, possibly. Is he going to go for the move? He does go for the move. I give him the room, I squeeze him out a little bit, and yeah, he's a bit wobbly, so we just managed to stay ahead, but I have to take the inside of this corner. That compromises my run, but for now, we retain the position still, and I am fighting tooth and nail with these guys so far. I'm giving absolutely everything I've got, and this is going to be not doing any favours for the tyres whatsoever. Burning my battery once again as we go down the DRS straight here, and up through this reprofiled corner. You might remember this used to be more of a hairpin. I guess it still technically is a hairpin, but it's more of a smooth hairpin rather than a sharp hairpin. So that allows me to carry a bit more speed through that corner as we go down into the run here. And yeah, we stay ahead. And lap 2, we have held position. Not fantastic, but not the end of the world either. But now, as the DRS gets enabled, we're going to have a task on our hands. You see Daniel Ricciardo moves to the inside. He's got quite a lot of speed as we go down on the run to turn 1. And let's see who's ahead as we go through turn 1 and 2. I just about maintain the position for now, but I'm sure that Daniel Ricciardo is going to be challenging me all the way throughout this lap as we go on the run up the hill to turn 3, or turn 4 rather, and he just about sneaks ahead, and yeah, there's not much I can do there. No point diving up the inside of him because it's just going to compromise both of us to Lance Stroll. And you see they're all on the red stripe soft tyre, I'm on the yellow stripe medium tyre. And as we go through turn 7, 8, and as we come up the hill to turn 9, you see that Lance Stroll is so close behind me, and he's going to have DRS here, so I'm going to need to burn a lot of my battery. Even with DRS, these cars are faster than me, so it's a real challenge to keep them behind. You know, you need to be burning battery, DRS, and hoping you have a good exit from the corner, having a lot of traction as well, which is that kind of lies in the setup a little bit. So maybe I need to start tweaking my car to help me with things like traction and stuff like that. But it also comes naturally as we get more upgrades on the car. So for now we're struggling, but in the future I think we're going to come good. As we move on to lap 4, Lance Stroll moves up the inside. He's got DRS once again, and it's almost a non-contest this time. Even Lando Norris is actually having a bit of a look up the inside, and let's see who wins out in this battle. Yeah, he's a lot further ahead by the time we actually get to the corner, to the point that he almost goes into Lance Stroll. And now, on the back of me, and looking for a move up the inside, is Zhou Guanyu. You see, I go off the circuit as I'm trying to stick it around the outside, and he's on the medium tyres, and he still manages to make the move work into turn 4, and now pressure's being put on me by Pierre Gasly, who is also on the medium tyres. I think we just about stay ahead. We actually put some pressure on Zhou Guanyu there, but he's got the extra straight line speed and the extra traction coming out of the corner. So, yeah. He's going to retain that position for now, and now we need to think about defending from Gasly, or we're just going to start going backwards in this race. I mean, we've already gone backwards in this race, but we're going to go backwards in this race even more. There's a lot of cars still behind. You see there's Vettel, Tsunoda, both Williamses, and my teammate Christian Lundgaard. So ideally we want to maintain sort of this kind of position, because we don't want to lose position to all of those guys, otherwise it's going to be a pretty tricky race for us. As we come through the final sector, and you see that there's actually some damage on the side of my car. I'm not really sure where we picked that up, because I don't remember having any contact with anyone, but you know, perhaps I did. And here's Pierre Gasly moving to the inside now, and with the DRS and the you know, he's got the straight line speed, he's got the Red Bull engine in his car, and yeah, that is going to be his position for the taking. And yeah, as we cut back to my onboard, we're now on lap 10, and you see we're in P14, but a few people in front have pitted, and Vettel behind now comes into the pits, and this relieves a bit of pressure on me. I'm just maintaining DRS range to Gasly in front for these few laps, but Vettel was, you know, he was closing me down. It was only due to having the DRS on Gasly that I was really able to maintain the position. Here we are on lap 11. The focus actually is not me this time, it's the car behind me, Yuki Tsunoda, who has a puff of smoke out the back of his car, and that is another Red Bull related DNF. So I'm just happy that I'm not running those engines. You know, between me and Christian, we've actually only had one mechanical failure all season, despite the fact that the Renault engine wasn't supposed to be that durable. Gasly by this point, as we get onto lap 14, has broken the DRS to me, and this allows Albon to breeze past me. You know, look how far ahead he is. He does have a Mercedes engine in the back of that car, but still, that was almost easy. And then at the end of lap 14, you see we come to the pits, and we're going to be competing with the likes of Albon and Gasly as we come out of this pit stop phase. So yeah, I need a good pit stop. I need to turn in optimally, and then I need them to have a good one. So we'll see what happens. Optimal turn in, 0.3 seconds remaining. Pretty happy with that one.
We have an issue attaching the front right wheel. I know it's not ideal, but let's try and put that behind us and get back into this race.
And that pit stop upgrade, that pit crew upgrade, really can't come soon enough. That's 4 times in 6 race weekends, and one of those race weekends we didn't even do a pit stop, which means there's only been one race weekend where we've had a perfect pit stop every time I've come into the pits. Unfortunately, that allows Albon to get quite significantly far ahead of us, and it will also allow probably Latifi to jump us in the pit stop phase as well. Now we're battling with the likes of Vettel and Ricciardo, so I'm guessing that the overcut worked on them, because Ricciardo was ahead of me, and obviously I had the pit stop error, which should have allowed Vettel to get ahead of me as well. But yeah, as you see, I'm on cold tyres, and this just allows Vettel to go through, and it's not even a contest for him. Now we've got Ricciardo and Hamilton putting pressure on us from behind, and you see that we are, you know, sort of battling tooth and nail here with Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to look for a move up the inside as we get into turn 10, but there's no room at the end. You see, I use the full width of the track and maybe even a little bit more, and as we go through turns 11 and 12, yeah, no way through for Daniel Ricciardo at the moment. So now the tyres have got a bit more heat in them. That's going to enable us to potentially keep Ricciardo at bay, but we're going to have to use the DRS on Sebastian Vettel, who already is quite far ahead. And actually we don't have any DRS. He's already managed to pull out over a second since he overtook us less than a lap ago. That's testament to how cold the tyres were. And here comes Hamilton down the inside of both me and Ricciardo. That's a hell of a move. But you know, he's on soft tyres and he's in a much faster car. It's to be expected. I think he had some contact a couple times earlier. I think he may have actually had contact with Christian Lundgaard when he was trying to make his way back to the field after his initial pit stop. And that it's massively compromised his race, unfortunately for him. As he challenges Vettel there for P17, you see that Vettel kind of pushes him out there. Vettel's like, nah, this is my position. Me in the third worst car on the grid on hard compound tyres versus you in the second best car on the grid with soft compound tyres. And you see he is just bullying Hamilton all the way through these corners. Hamilton maybe going a bit more aggressive than he probably should be. But yeah, here we are on the DRS straight. He's going to have DRS to Vettel. I've got DRS to him. Let's see what happens as Hamilton desperately tries to look for a way through Sebastian Vettel. He comes down the outside on this occasion, and they've made contact. You can see there a bit of front wing flies off, and that's Hamilton's end plate on the right hand side. Does that mean he's going to come into the pits again? I would wage to say he probably will, because he's going to lose a lot of downforce from that. But nonetheless, you know, he's still faster than all of us, and that's testament to the fact that these front wings aren't everything like they were in previous games. You remember in Miami I had half a front wing on that first lap, and I honestly was still fairly competitive. But nonetheless, he comes in to fix the front wing, and that enables me to take P18. And I've got the DRS here. I don't have any battery left, so it's going to be tough, but I'm looking for a move on Sebastian Vettel, and I almost go into him because he locks up as we go down on the run into turn 1. And yeah, that means P18 is mine for the taking. I was very, very pleased about that. That is another position gained in this race, and we're up into P17.
Catching the car ahead, but remember, we need to get to the end of the race on these tyres.
Albon and Latifi ahead, but they're 5 seconds up the road, and at the moment I'm just trying to win out in this battle with Daniel Ricciardo. We've been battling him all race so far, and he challenges me into turn 1, but we just about managed to stay ahead. Without DRS, we're going to be super susceptible to him, so it's going to take super high-paced laps for me to keep him behind. But I was surprised to see that as we get onto lap 22, I actually was breaking out of DRS range from him, which means that you know, the race is going to get a lot more comfortable from here on out for me versus Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, that was good that we had this pace over McLaren. I really wasn't expecting that. You see Vettel's fallen off dramatically as well. I don't know if he also picked up some minor damage from the Hamilton contact, but here you see Daniel Ricciardo and Hamilton battling it out on lap 31, and Hamilton makes it back through after he's had another stop. And now we're going to be, you know, we've got blue flags to, I believe that is Sainz behind us, which means that Hamilton is going to come back into touch, because there's also, I think that is Verstappen, who is coming up to lap us. So that's a lot of slowing down we're going to have to be doing. And as we get into what will be our final lap, because we can lap now, I imagine Hamilton in a much faster car and also younger tyres is going to be right behind us and putting some pressure on us. You see here through the DRS straight, I slow down a little bit to enable Max Verstappen to get through, and it actually compromises our run through turn 10 a little bit, and that's going to allow Hamilton to catch up massively. So yeah, all I can hope for is a good final lap, and I think it's going to take a strong defense to keep Hamilton behind as we get into this final sector and begin our final lap of the race. I think I just managed to stay within a second of Verstappen in front, which means I get DRS down this straight, and that is going to be crucial in the battle with Hamilton if we want to keep this P17. I can't believe I'm battling a Mercedes, but it is only for P17, so yeah, it's not the most exciting battle in the world, but it still is against the Mercedes. We come up the hill as we approach turn 4, and Max Verstappen is definitely broken out of DRS range now, so we're going to have a real task on our hands to keep Hamilton at bay as we come through the final few sectors of this circuit. Down through turn 5, and you see now Hamilton is right on the back of us, 0.4 seconds as we approach the hill coming up the hill towards turn 9. Unfortunately, because we don't have enough downforce on the car, we're not able to take it flat out at the moment, whereas I think he is, and that's going to give him a run on us. He'll have DRS, we're going to have to burn all of our battery to get down the hill, and you see he still goes up the inside. We try and drag it around the outside of him, and surprisingly, I think he may have had a bit of oversteer or something there, because he looked like he was wobbling slightly, and that allows us to stay ahead of him for now, but I think he could still put pressure on us. He's in such a fast car that through any of these corners he could be a threat. I'm going to have to take these very, very well. It's not terrible, but you see he's still got a lot of speed, and he's closing us down as we get into the final straight. As we cross the line, we just managed to stay ahead. That can only have been a matter of milliseconds, and it is P17, and we keep Hamilton at bay for now. So that was a very, very solid result and a very solid finish in the end. From starting P12, that wasn't the best result I could have achieved, but I'm nonetheless pretty happy with it.
Victory here in Spain and a massive confidence boost going into the next race. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team strategies. They got all those things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
The hometown hero, Carlos Sainz. He wins his home Grand Prix, and maybe he's starting to come back into this championship. It was looking a bit dire for him before. You see, Verstappen got P2 in the end, and it was Charles Leclerc in P3. A bit of a shame for him, because I believe he was on pole, but I think he'll be pretty happy nonetheless, especially for his teammate winning his home Grand Prix. That's something you always want to do. But, you know, Charles Leclerc could do the same thing, because it is the Monaco Grand Prix coming up next. And to say that I'm not looking forward to that would be an understatement. And yeah, that is it all for the Spanish Grand Prix.
That lead at the top has somewhat shrunk today. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I think for driver of the day, I'd probably pick Lando Norris. He lived up to every inch of his reputation today, and I think he'll be going home, quite rightly, a bit proud of himself.
Let's move on to the constructors. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
Yeah, so we're back down to P11 in the Teams Championship now. Unfortunately, because we were a lap down, we couldn't see the full delta between us and Hamilton, but I think it was very, very close. And now it is time to get into the highlights of this race. So it's a pretty decent start for us, all things considered, but yeah, with the cars on soft tyres around us, it was always going to be difficult. I was pretty happy with how this race went, I've got to say. I know that obviously losing 5 positions over the course of the race sounds pretty dire, especially considering well, actually the retirement in this race was a car that started behind us anyway in Yuki Tsunoda, so I think that was something that didn't really benefit us. I think we do lose that many positions in most races, maybe even more positions, like at least so far with how these Grand Prix have gone. But I think usually it's kind of hidden by the fact that there's usually a couple of high-profile retirements ahead of us. For example, Sergio Perez in Miami was a big one that allowed us to make up obviously a position. And then there was the Schumacher, Magnussen, Stroll incident. That meant we were able to make up 4 positions right at the end, which meant I believe we started P13 in that race, and we only finished 2 positions down on where we started. Whereas here, there was only 1 retirement, and it was behind us, and there were no big incidents. Hamilton was about the only driver who had any kind of... Well, actually, Lundgaard was having a lot of problems as well, and he was constantly having to come to the pits, but he started behind us as well, so... Hamilton was the only driver ahead of us who had any kind of incident in this race, which meant there wasn't really like much advantage to be gained over anyone who was ahead of us due to them having contact or anything like that. the slow pit stop kind of really affected us in our battle with the Williamses, which was a shame, because I did think that we had the pace to challenge them this weekend, even though Albon in particular was going quite strongly during the race. It was still just, yeah, unfortunately it kind of put us out of range of them, and then they started pulling away with DRS and whatnot. But yeah, I think we just need to be realistic about the pace of the car. We're not going to be challenging for points really at the moment, unless it's, you know, a bit of a crazy race. So I just have to bide my time, put more upgrades on the car, and eventually we should be able to get into a position where we can start challenging for points. You see Lance Stroll is starting to really move away in this rivalry. With only 3 races remaining, I'm going to need him to basically retire from 1 or 2 Grand Prix in order to catch him. Now we're working our way up in the Acclaim. We're almost ready to sign a new sponsor. We're not that far away from Team Acclaim level 10 now, so that is pretty good. And we still don't get the sponsor bonus, which means I guess we both have to qualify P15 or better, and I never would have gone for that if I'd known. Both of us get some pretty big deductions. I don't remember doing any damage to the car, so I really don't know why I'm getting those deductions, but that will be it. Thank you everyone for watching, please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.